So whether or not you're actually interested in proactively using LinkedIn to generate leads, or you're just wanting to keep your presence out there, to keep your name in front of your market, your connections, whatever it might be, I've got some stuff for you here. And the other thing I want to mention before I dive into it is that you could get 20 people up here that are doing good things on LinkedIn and generating results for their business, and they might all tell you 20 different things they're doing to make that happen. That's because there's really a lot that you can do on LinkedIn. All right, so I'm really only going to be able to scratch the surface, but I'm going to give you some specific things that you can do, including some different scripts for some different kinds of approaches. And we can email out the slides probably, so you don't need to be scribbling down, because I'm going to have to move pretty fast. So why LinkedIn? There's over 313 million members, and LinkedIn has the most affluent demographic of any of the major social networks. All right. On top of that, most people don't know that LinkedIn's actually growing faster in terms of monthly active users than Facebook or Twitter. So that's kind of a big deal, right? And then, of course, there's millions of businesses on LinkedIn. A survey that a company called Ipsos put out, they're a global market research firm, found that LinkedIn reaches more business elite and C-suite monthly than any other business news or website measured. All right, so if you're thinking, where are my prospects hanging out and paying attention, a lot of them are paying attention to LinkedIn. All right, so before we talk about the right way to do things, let's talk about how not to do it. So if you've got a picture like this, where you're partying on the beach, don't put that on LinkedIn. All right, now Bill used to have one like that before we set him straight. Yeah. Or if you've got a picture with your dog and your baby and your pink rifle, you know, that's just not a LinkedIn type picture. It might not even be a Facebook type picture. It might not even be a dog. It might be a monster of some sort, or a Wolverine, I don't know. But either way, I really just wanted to show those pictures because I thought they were funny. I'm pretty sure nobody in here is doing that. And the point is that you want to have a professional picture. But that in and of itself isn't going to generate results, right? And just having a fancy looking profile on LinkedIn that's all buttoned up isn't going to generate a ton of results in and of itself. Maybe every once in a while somebody will stumble upon it, all right? But the people out there that are preaching the stuff your LinkedIn profile with keywords to generate a bunch of leads, it's really hocus pocus, right? Every once in a while maybe you get something, but not a consistent, ongoing, real sales funnel, if you will. So I'm not going to talk any more about your profile, but if you go to that link there, and I'll show it again towards the end, we've got over an hour of video training on fixing up your profile, all right? So let's talk about the lead generation part of it. And what I'm going to focus on right now is getting to people that don't currently know who you are, or that you're not currently connected to, all right? Because usually when we're talking about generating new leads, we're talking about getting outside of our existing network. So the first thing people think to do is they think I'm going to go find some people that look like a good fit and send them a connection request, right? And hope to connect with them and then work them through some process, right? Well, too many people send a message that looks like this, right? Which is that stock LinkedIn script that basically tells people, you know, I haven't really taken much time to, you know, tell you why I want to connect with you. I'm just rifling off connection requests to people, right? And I get probably 15 or 20 connection requests a day, something like that. And I would say that maybe at the most 1 out of 10 includes a personalized note. And I accept every one of those. And the rest of them, oftentimes, unless I can really clearly see that it's a person that has value for me to connect with, I just ignore them now because it's too much time to investigate them, right? And I think if you're reaching out to real prospects for your business, that taking the time to personalize it like this is worth the effort, because it will increase the acceptance rate significantly, right? And this is really simple. I'm just saying, I noticed that we're both connected to so-and-so and so-and-so and thought it wouldn't hurt to reach out. Hope you'd be open to connecting here. Hope business is going well for you, something like that. The point isn't that, well, what do I say here? It's just come up with something personal, and it'll really increase your hit rate dramatically. So let's talk about another tactic, and I really like this one. So whether or not you are actively trying to drum up business on LinkedIn, or you've got somebody else in your office that's doing it, this is a strategy that can work for a lot of people, all right? So everyone's LinkedIn account gives you the ability to save some number of searches, all right? Now, they change things like every other day, so if for some reason that has changed, you know, I disclaim any responsibility for that. But if you do a search on LinkedIn, and you can see that I've got a really specific criteria here for anyone with the title CFO or controller, all right, and with all these company size restrictions and all these different parameters for the type of prospect that's perfect for my business, all right. Now this is just an example. We don't really work with CFOs, but the key is that you can save these searches so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time, all right. And you can go back in and look at these searches without, like I said, reinventing the wheel. But the really cool thing is that you can, when you set up the save search, LinkedIn will give you an option to email you new results that meet the criteria. So that if somebody has risen in the ranks and all of a sudden they're the CFO and they used to be the whatever, then they'll show up on this and LinkedIn will alert you. You can set it up so they'll send you a weekly digest of anyone new that fits the criteria. What if somebody's moving into town from some other state, and they don't know anybody, right? So like this example here, let's say this CFO, Steve Lohman, at the Republic of Tea. So Brian, I don't know, this might apply to you. Bankers are oftentimes going after CFOs and such, right? You might say, oh boy, I just see this new CFO coming to town. I want to reach out to him, right? Well, what are you going to do? Well, in this case, I'm using an InMail, all right, which if you have a premium account, you get some number of them, or you can buy them if you don't have any. But they allow you to message anybody you want on LinkedIn, okay? Or you could use this same message and approach and send it in a connection request, all right? But basically, I'm just saying, hey, Steve, I came across your profile here on LinkedIn and thought it wouldn't hurt to reach out. I'm dropping a couple names of people that we both have in common in some way. And then I'm just saying, congrats on the new position. Let me know if you'd be open to connecting here, all right? So you can see with all these approaches, I'm not reaching out to people and saying, I've got these great services and I'd love to talk to you about how I can help your company. Because people are going to shut down to that kind of stuff, right? People, as much as people might like buying stuff, they don't like being sold to. We've all heard that before. And it's the same on LinkedIn, but for some reason on LinkedIn, there's a lot of people out there that act really pushy in ways that they would never act in a room of people like this, right? So let's say Steve then says, yeah, great, open to, happy to connect here. Thanks for reaching out, Well, then how do you actually turn that into business, all right? Well, you don't want to spoil the relationship by just turning around and humping his leg the next day, right? Instead, what you want to do is come up, yeah, that is the technical term. You want to, yeah.
It's a lot said in a short period of time.
Yeah. You want to, really nurture this person along and treat them almost like you would treat a friend, like a real, do things the right way. So within LinkedIn, what you want to try and do is move it into a real world relationship. And you're not going to do that by just pitching them on, how great your bank is and your interest rates are better than anybody's and we're the best in quality and service and can I come talk to you about our products? No matter what your business is, that generally doesn't really sit well with people. But if you approach them like this and just say something like, as much as I love all this social media stuff, I still really like to actually get to know my connections. Would you be open to a call or maybe grabbing a coffee sometime soon just to get to know about each other's businesses and see how we might be able to help each other, et cetera, et cetera. Especially for somebody new moving to town, it might be an appealing offer, getting to know some other people out and about the community and networking. Even if they're not new in town, this is going to get a much better response rate than here's why my business is awesome and I'd love to talk to you about selling you something. That generally doesn't work very well. And then once you get the person to have a coffee with you and you get them on the table, or if you're not even going for a coffee, maybe it's a phone call initially, just in the conversation of talking to them about what you do and what they do, chatting about your kids and what high school you went to and all this stuff we talk about when we're having coffees with people. You'll have the opportunity to tell them why your business is great and see if there's a problem that they might need some help with, right? So aside from that, there are a lot of different approaches you can use. We'll have these links up at the end, but we have a free webinar that Glenda mentioned earlier that talks about one of our other strategies that works really well for reaching out to cold prospects. So I'll leave it at that on that one. But what about the people that you go through this process and they're still not ready to buy right now, which is really most of the prospects or suspects that we talk to, right? What percentage of the people are really ready to buy right now? How many Steve Lohmans are ready to go. It's not that high of a percentage, so you have to have a way to stay in front of them. All right, and the best way to do that is through a number of different mediums, right? I mean, having an integrated approach to marketing where you're touching people in all the different places they can be reached is really the best solution. As it pertains to LinkedIn specifically, a couple of the easy things you can be doing, right, are status updates and sharing content into groups. So status updates are the things that show up on your home page on LinkedIn. All right, so when you log in and you see some stuff that your connections are talking about. And people often ask me, how often should I be posting these updates? I generally tell people, try and post something daily, all right? And I'm going to show you in a minute how you can make that easy on yourself and automate a lot of it, all right? But the reason is because people aren't using LinkedIn like they use Facebook, right? So if you post something once a week on LinkedIn, your connections aren't just going into their homepage feeds and scouring through to find out what everybody did. You gotta really, to have people see the things you're sharing on LinkedIn, you almost gotta show up right there above the fold, right? Like what you see with Karen's update about social media videos all in one social zing. She's sharing an update about something she's doing, right? And I see it because I log in. But I'm not gonna look much lower on the page than that, right? So if you want people to see these updates that you're sharing on LinkedIn, right, then you have to post regularly to increase the chances that it's going to be seen at all. So what do you talk about, though? Because if you're going to share something once a day, you can't just be talking about yourself all the time and constantly promoting yourself. Went too far there. There we go. So this is just an example of the kind of topic planning that we would do with a client in an initial planning meeting, where we would really kind of just detail out the different things that we want to curate content about, right? So if you're working locally, you can, every once in a while you want to share something about what you do, but then there's just all these other things that the people you're connected to are interested in, and that's what really provides value to your network, is sharing things that other people are going to be interested in. Local news, things from the Business Journal or the Small Business Monthly. Sharing things that your friends are doing, any of the stuff that's on this list, right? So from there, the next thing we recommend to people to keep your name in front of people is group postings, sharing into the groups that you're a part of. You can be a member of up to 50 LinkedIn groups, all right? And when you're in 50 LinkedIn groups, if you're in the right groups, which we recommend to join the groups that your prospects are in, not your competitors, right? So an example of that is an accounting firm that's in all sorts of accounting and finance groups. It's okay to be in some of those. You want to stay tapped into your industry and such, but your prospects are not in those groups. Or if you're an accountant that's working in the St. Louis area primarily, you probably want to be in more St. Louis business owner type groups than accounting groups, right? And what's the value of that then? Well, if you share content into those groups every once in a while, right? So with the status updates, you're already putting the content together, all right? So find the best of the best, maybe once a week or so, and share that into each of your groups, okay? And you can automate that as well, which I'll talk about in a second. And while it's true that all the people in these LinkedIn groups aren't just hanging out in there and just waiting for you to share your content so they can read your stuff, right? That's not happening. But most people are getting these email digests, and every once in a while checking them out, right? I've been in prospects' offices sitting at their computer where I've seen one of these email digests up on their desktop of a LinkedIn group that I run. And I hadn't heard from the guy in a couple years before I had that meeting, and I'm thinking, well, we've been doing a pretty good job of staying top of mind with this person for the last couple years, right? And so that's really what this can do. Of course, sharing content, you also want to be driving traffic to your website, all the other things that come along with sharing content. But as it relates to what I'm talking about, we care most about it for just staying top of mind with people in a number of different ways. And so some of the results, here's a client of ours who has a really interesting business working for U.S. expatriates in China. And he's generating 622 clicks a month and about 6,000 views of the status updates a month from this kind of a plan, all right? So the way you make it easy is you can either use Hootsuite, which a lot of people are familiar with Hootsuite, and what it can do. You can schedule out updates and stuff. And for status updates, Hootsuite's fine. But if you want to be consistently sharing content into your LinkedIn groups, this tool called Octopost is really the best solution when it comes to LinkedIn specifically. And the reason is because we haven't found another tool that shares content properly into LinkedIn groups. It comes out looking like a robot did it, and then you look kind of weird to people, which nobody wants that, right? Octopost does it the right way, and it looks like a human being actually shared it into the group. And the beauty with this is that you can, all this content sharing and status updates and these different topics, you can sit down for an hour once a month, curate the content that you want to be sharing, pepper in a couple of your own things, and then schedule it all out in Octopost for the next 30 days or whatever time frame you want to schedule it out for. And then you can just, set it and forget it, as they say, so that it's just sharing the stuff out. And it's happening on autopilot except for that 1 hour a month or so where you're putting it together. So it's a pretty good solution for staying top of mind with people. But aside from just these tactics and trying to do these things tactically, what's really more important if you want to get results from LinkedIn is having a clear plan of who you're trying to target and then what you're going to do, right? So the who you're going to target, use the LinkedIn people search and try and get really clear and come up with a one-page cheat sheet of the type of person that you're trying to reach based on the different search criteria LinkedIn gives you. We call it developing a prospect profile, and when you can have that cheat sheet sitting next to you, it's really helpful that then when you log into LinkedIn every day, if you're proactively using LinkedIn for business development, to have a cheat sheet so that you're not reinventing the wheel every day, right? And then you can be saving those searches because there's probably more than one profile of the type of people that you're going after. Aside from that, it's really understanding which tactics make sense for you. Like I said at the beginning, there's a lot of stuff you can do. So you got to spend a little time figuring out what makes sense for your business and trying different things and figuring out what works and what really feels right to you for your business and all that stuff. Because if you try and just do it all, it's just not going to work well. Maybe try and tackle a few things, have 3 or 4 really key things you do within LinkedIn, and do those well, and just make them part of your marketing system and really build a process around them so that it's not some cumbersome thing that's a drain on your brain on a consistent basis, right? And one thing I'd recommend is to build some sort of a mind map that really shows the outcome of what you're doing and how these activities within LinkedIn are going to drive the type of results that you're looking for, right? Because if you're just doing stuff to be doing it, but you're not really clear how it's all connected to the bigger picture of what you're trying to achieve, then your results aren't going to be as good as I think they otherwise could be. And this is one that we work through with our clients to do that exact same thing that Cynthia actually helped us to develop, and it's really effective. That said, here's the links that I mentioned if you didn't get a chance to scribble them down. And we doing all right on time? Do we have
you've got time for questions.
A couple minutes for Q&A?
Yeah.
All right. Any questions? Yeah.
I'm relatively new to LinkedIn, and I'll get endorsements out of the blue
Sure.
from one person or several people.
Sure.
Is that something that boosts somebody's score or count? Or,
So-
why is anybody doing it from time to time as opposed to just a one blast sort of thing?
Yeah, well, it's not really going to help you and your business move forward. It's not going to help them. It's going to help LinkedIn to be able to target ads to you based on what people say you're good at and what, all that kind of stuff. It makes your profile look like, wow, a lot of people have said a lot of nice things about this person if they click that endorse button enough times, and you've got a bunch of skills that show, 99 plus people said that I'm awesome at turtle farming or whatever it is, right? But I don't think people are looking at that and saying, we got to call this guy. 25 people have said that he's great at financial projections or whatever it is. I just don't see that happening. So yeah, nice to have it kind of give you a filled out profile. But aside from that, the main reason LinkedIn has built that is for their ad platform. Yeah.
So there's really no motivation to the sender either other than to, hey, I'm thinking of you?
Well, LinkedIn entices people to do that because they show you that window pops up that tries to get you to click, and they recommend these skills, and it's real easy to do it, and then you feel like a nice person, and you're endorsing people for things, and it's really easy to do, you know, so it's a good system they've built. Yeah, Tom?
Building on that, sort of a question for the whole group. I used to wonder whether there was any sort of reciprocation factor that comes. If I endorse somebody with whom I'd like to do business, are they more likely to initiate a conversation with me? And in my experience, the answer to that question is no. I'm wondering whether any of you, well, I know that some of you endorse because some of you have endorsed me. Have any of you ever had the experience of endorsing somebody and then business follows as a result? No. Okay.
Well, and the other thing is that there's recommendations which still exist on LinkedIn, which actually does carry some weight, where you actually give some thought to why you're recommending a person. You write a little paragraph about why they're the greatest, and then you submit it to them, and then if they accept it, it shows on their profile, and it builds up some testimonials for them that actually are real. Just yesterday, I was looking into somebody that runs a conference that's focused around IT marketing. Somebody recommended I reach out to her, and I looked at her LinkedIn profile. One of the things I looked at was the recommendation section. She had like 26 people talking about how amazing this conference was and how brilliant she is and how much she's helped their businesses. And that was like instant credibility for me that these people were saying these things about her, you know. So I think that is important, you know. And I would recommend that if you don't have people, if you don't have at least, you know, a handful of recommendations on your LinkedIn profile, go try and get some. And the other good thing about it is that if you get them on your LinkedIn profile, you can use them on your website as testimonials too, you know. So that's kind of a cool thing. Jared?
Yeah, I can imagine since you're posting to all these groups that inevitably there's some conversations that arise from people that are commenting. Do you get notified on those comments, and how? What kind of percentage of your time is dedicated to responses?
Well, it's not the way. If you want to get a lot of comments, the best thing to do isn't to just share articles and stuff into groups. It's to try and start discussions. You know, don't post a link into a group. Just ask a question in a group. You know, so if it's a marketing group, you might post something in the group like, you know, hey, are there any B2B companies in here that are really generating results with Facebook, and what do you see and work best for you? Question mark. And that's what kind of stuff that gets people commenting. So if you're really looking for that kind of engagement, do that. Other than that, we don't get that many comments on just sharing how-to articles and case studies and stuff like that. But you do get notified. You can get an email notification, and then on your little, if you're in LinkedIn, you can get notified that someone commented up on the little top right thing with the flag. Yeah. Yep.
If you're using LinkedIn to grow business, build new business connections for sales, how much time a week do you suggest people spend on LinkedIn doing that?
It just depends on your business and what's working for you. You know, but, you know, we've got, you know, for a given client that we might do work for, we might spend 1 hour to 2 hours a day utilizing LinkedIn on their behalf. You know, there are salespeople that I know of in companies that they have their sales guys on LinkedIn half the day, you know, 4 hours a day, because it's that critical for them. It's their #1 way of finding prospects and getting in with them. And you know, the whole social selling thing, you know, is quite popular these days. So a lot of companies are spending a lot of time on it. All right. Thanks.